I'm 53 years old. I've been aware that the EU is toxic for the UK since I was 15.
What led you to that conclusion?
Basically, it was a discussion with a friend at school whose father was a dairy farmer.
Yes.
And it was the way his herd was being reduced under EU quotas.
Right.
And he was being told how much milk he could produce. It was all about the price fixing. It was not necessarily then about free movement of people. I've got a Spanish stepfather, for instance, who benefited from that.
Yes.
But basically, one thing on top of another, I see the EU as a toxic relationship for the UK.
You know that milk quotas were withdrawn in 2015, don't you?
That's as maybe, but what I'm saying is...
Did you know that? Yes, or did you know that? Yes,
no, I didn't know
but it was
that.
made up by something that's not true anymore, Martin.
That's just one thing.
Okay, what was the other one then?
You asked me what the first thing that drew my attention to it was. And
that's no longer true, so we have to park that one and try again.
Okay. Regardless of that, I think that the EU is toxic.
Yes, I know you do, but why? Because the example you've given isn't true, and you'll be aware that the National Farmers Union...
You asked... Hang on, wait a minute, mate. You asked the question, why do we dislike you, as opposed to these muppets that...
No. Why are you getting angry with the people that told you were being misled? So here you are on the radio saying, I voted Leave because of something that doesn't exist anymore.
I've told you before on your show, the reason I'm angry with people like you is because I believe you undermined our position from the initial negotiation.
But your position was built on something that's not true. How can I undermine that?
Not my position.
You're talking about milk quotas, and they don't exist anymore. And the National Farmers Union has warned that a no-deal Brexit would... Well, in fact, we don't even need to listen to the National Farmers Union. We could listen to Patrick Mimford, the pocket economist of the Leave vote, who said that leaving without a deal would decimate agriculture. So you voted to decimate agriculture because you wanted to protect agriculture.
Which is why I probably would have preferred a no-deal situation, which is why I'm now keen that a deal gets done. But
sorry, just run me through that again.
39 billion out of us in a divorce bill, when we've already paid way more into the EU than the majority of the other 27 member states.
So, well, that's A, that's not true, and B, the return on what we pay into the Martin, none of this becomes true just by repeating it. The return on what we pay for single market membership is estimated to be between 800 and 2,500%. So there's no such thing as milk quotas, but you know the EU is toxic. That's a very strong word. Just provide a little bit of evidence before we bid each other good day.
Okay. The setup where we've got now freedom of movement and the NHS and other parts of business are using trained and qualified people from the EU to fill job roles.
43,000 vacancies in the NHS at the moment, mate.
Yeah, and they should be being filled by some of the 1.35 million unemployed.
43,000 vacancies in the NHS. I'll double check that. I'm doing it off the top of my head, so forgive me if it's slightly higher or lower. But what's your point again? When there's tens of thousands of vacancies in the NHS, there's too many foreigners filling the jobs that aren't vacant.
Hang on, just can you stop talking for a second so I can get a sentence out, mate?
As soon as you start making sense.
1.35 million people unemployed, which is low.
How many of them are qualified doctors and nurses?
No, and they're not qualified doctors and nurses because our training infrastructure has been run down.
But there's tens of thousands of vacancies.
Has been able to use free movement of people.
But there's tens of thousands of vacancies.
I'm not understanding what you're saying because I can hardly hear you. But
okay, well, a minute ago you were complaining I was talking too much, and now you're complaining that I'm not talking loud enough. I'll say it again. There are tens of thousands of vacancies in the NHS. How can there be too many foreigners in it?
The reason there are all those vacancies is because our training infrastructure has been run down by successive governments using the free movement of people as an excuse so that they can fill those vacancies from the EU.
So it had nothing to do with the EU then? It was successive British governments lying?
No, James, for once we're in agreement. It had nothing
there we
to do
go.
with
We got there in the end. So your reason for voting leave had absolutely nothing to do with the EU, and your other reason for voting leave ceased to be true in about 2015. You crack on, mate. And I know that you haven't budged 1 millimetre. The EU's toxic. Something about cows. Foreign nurses. And there you are, still wanging on, mate. And still getting cross with the people who've told you for years that you were being mugged, not getting cross with the people who've mugged you. Live on national radio, making an absolute underpant of yourself, but still cross with the people who told you not to do this, instead of the people who told you that you were being conned.